Welcome, everyone. Looks like people are just connecting. So glad you guys could make it. Thank you. Thank you. So we are recording this session. Hopefully that works for everyone. We're also happy to share it with everyone afterward. So welcome to the Pocketed and Think SRED, SRED 101. This is, in fact, the first time that we've led one of these webinars. But for those of you that are new to Pocketed, we're a startup we're on a mission to end financial barriers to entrepreneurship. So we want to help more startups, small businesses, side hustles succeed through accessing non-dilutive funding. And that includes grants, but it also absolutely includes tax credits. And so we have invited our good friends from think SRED to let us know a little bit more about what's going on in the world of tax credits. So before I introduce John Paul, or JP as we all call him, from think SRED, I also just wanted to say hi to my friend Ben Walter, who's also joining us from Pocketed. So Ben and I lead partnerships for Pocketed, and Ben will be sharing a little bit more about our platform, Pocketed, at the end of the webinar. But now, again, over to JP, who can let us know a bit more about tax credits. JP is the CEO of both think SRED and Alibi Software. Based in Toronto, he brings over 15 years of experience, lots of successful experience, helping clients obtain SRED credits. So over to you, JP. We'd love to hear how we can get this money and how we can get it successfully.
Well, that's awesome. I think I'll just point out that one of the comments there at the bottom, or one of the points, was the $1 million that we've done. That's with the DMZ companies. So one of our other partners is the DMZ. I just wanted to make sure that that distinction was made. It makes up a percentage of the companies that we file for. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I thought someone was saying something there. So yeah, so that $1 million with the 100% success rate was for the DMZ founders. So thank you for sharing that information. Welcome, everyone. My name is John Paul Belanger, and it's a sincere pleasure to be able to speak to you today. I'm now sharing my screen, so unless someone tells me that it's not working, I'm going to assume that it is. Ben, thank you. I appreciate that. I thoroughly enjoy doing these SR&ED 101s or SRED 101s, depending on how you like to call it. And yeah, so it's a real pleasure. I would like to also avail the opportunity to all of you to interrupt. I'm going to leave that up to Ben or someone else who's helpful, who could be helpful. I don't know that I can see everyone right now with the majority of my screen being occupied by the deck that I'm using. So if someone wants to blurt something out or raise their hand or whatever it is that we do in this virtual age, let me know. I'm very, very happy to stop and answer your question, then jump back in. I won't miss a beat. So if it's helpful to you, to give some context to what I'm saying, just say, hey, JP, can you help me understand that? Or maybe is this what you're saying? And I'm very happy to do that. So going to make this entertaining, going to make this informative, and hopefully you'll find this information to be useful, whether or not it's today or going forward. That's the name of the game here. So we want you to have all of your questions answered. On behalf of think SRED, thank you for taking the time to spend with me and with us. And here we go. So today, actually, so here's a brief intro into the leadership team at think SRED. So one of the things that positions us uniquely is that being that 85% of our business is focused on software development, we have software professionals that lead. So it's not just necessarily a group of experienced technical writers. We thought, who better to present to software developers than software developers? So myself, I come with 15 years of experience in SR&ED preparation and advisory. My role is often on the financial side of things. I am not a software professional, but I picked up a few buzzwords along the line, and that's what it's limited to. Darren, on the other hand, wizard amongst wizards, 20 plus years experience in software development, 15 years of experience in SRED on your side of the desk. So Darren, no better person to tell you how uncomfortable and challenging and this exercise can be than when you see it kind of done poorly. So when we came together and we thought there's got to be a better way, and this person thought there's got to be a better way, it was a natural bond there for us to reinvent this wheel. Stephen Braitz comes with 35 years experience in tax and accounting, 20 years in SR&ED. So certainly an amazing leadership team. One thing I'll point out to you, part of our model is that any of our clients, when they're dealing with us, it always goes in through the leadership team and comes out through the leadership team. So I jokingly say, for better or worse, it's one of the three of us that you're going to deal with. Okay. Here we go. What are we going to talk about today? Not going to overwhelm you. Three things. Going to keep it real simple. Intro to SRED. For those of you who don't know, or, need some of the information debunked or misinformation debunked, we're going to do that. There's a lot out there. I have a passion for fitness. It's, and health and stuff like that, I think anyways. And I always jokingly say the only other place I've seen more information than in that world is in SR&ED. So it's like crazy, but we're going to help you figure this out today. How is the program administered? Okay, that's what we're going to talk about. And lastly, compliance. I mean, we could do 1, 2, 3 on compliance, but we're going to limit it to the intro, program administration, and compliance. What is the SR&ED program, or SRED? What is this? All right, I didn't start calling it SRED until the name think.SRED was born. I always called it SR&ED, but anyways, just so you know. The SR&ED program is a government incentive program that's rooted in tax law that fosters innovation in Canada. Okay, so when people call this tax credits, they're absolutely right. It is a tax credit. All right. For that reason, based that it's a tax incentive program, it's administered by Canada Revenue Agency. Who better to? This is who we remit our taxes to, whether it be corporate or personal, right? They adjudicate all of that, right? And it's at a federal and provincial level, depending on the status of the company. If you're a Canadian controlled private corporation or a public company or a subsidiary of a foreign company, right? A non-Canadian company. And to make this distinction, while our amazing partner Pocketed focuses on all things grants, the SR&ED program is not that. Okay, that's a clear distinction that I want to make. A grant is, and I'm not speaking as the expert here, but I think in almost every case, a grant is money that's availed to a qualified candidate where approved to proceed with a project or hiring an initiative, we'll call it. Okay. SR&ED is a retroactive submission that is made after the work is complete. Well, let me take that back. At the end of each fiscal year. Okay. So the mechanism by which a company makes the SR&ED submission is the corporate tax return. And if you're wondering now, how does that work? Well, it could be that an SR&ED project is ongoing. We'll get into that deeper, but we claim or we examine and submit for work that takes place each fiscal year. So that's a calendar year, 12 months. It might be offset from the calendar year though, okay? It's a very generous program. There is no cap on the SR&ED program. If you're eligible, then you're legally eligible. If you've done eligible work, then you're legally eligible to receive the benefits, okay? And for Canadian controlled private corporations, that tax credit that I was referring to is actually a refundable tax credit. So this is cash that your company receives based on expenditures that you've incurred throughout that year. And like I said, this very, very generous program pays out approximately $4 billion every year to 20,000 companies operating in Canada. That's also a really important takeaway. The work that's deemed to be eligible, the starting point is that it took place in Canada, not by individuals outside of Canada. So if you're a tech company and you're sending a lot of your dev work offshore, can't claim that. All right. When making an SR&ED submission, what you're doing is attempting to recover costs that are related to innovation whereby the work took place here in Canada. And as long as you're legally operating in Canada, meaning that you're a taxable company, okay, and you're not a not-for-profit or a charity, you're eligible to receive the benefits of the program, okay? I'm going to focus, how do I move this here? I don't know if I can. Oh, there we go. Perfect. I want to focus on the first block and the last block. Now we're going to get into defining what SR&ED is, okay? SR&ED is a systematic investigation or search in a field of science or technology by means of experiment or analysis, okay? And while you can make an SR&ED submission in one of three areas, basic research, applied research, I'm going to say that there's a 99% chance or more that your company will make it in the area of ED, which is the ED in experimental development, SR&ED rather. And that stands for experimental development. This is work undertaken for the purpose of technological advancement by attempting to create new or incrementally improve upon an existing product or process. So simply put, before we get into it more, this is work that would be occurring amidst your commercial projects. Whether you're developing a product to sell, or you're trying to integrate your own CRM with some sort of external, software, and those integration points, that may be where the work lies. This isn't something that you're going to commercialize. It's for your own company, right? So the work doesn't have to be for, it has to be commercialized. It can either be a product that you're developing to sell, or could be something you're doing internally. Okay. Now, hopefully this entices you a little bit, because it's like, yeah, okay, well, maybe that's interesting, maybe not. I need to know a little bit more, but why would we even be interested in making an SR&ED submission? Well, getting back to how generous it is, here's some numbers for context, okay? So what can be claimed through the SR&ED program? Salaries for dedicated Canadian employees can be refunded at 65% of the dedicated payroll, okay? The dedicated payroll. And let's, for simple math, because it's never been my forte, let's say you have someone that makes $100,000, and I'll give you two examples just because I want you all to realize that it's not just 100% or nothing, but let's say 100% of that person's salary is eligible SRED. You could get back 65,000, okay? Another example, say that same person makes $100,000, but you determine that 50% of it is eligible SRED, 50% of it is unrelated work. You could get back $32,500 because the 50 in this case is dedicated payroll, what we'll call the dedicated payroll, okay, or the dedicated salary. If that same individual is a contractor, then it's half that amount. The refundability rate for a CCPC, a Canadian controlled private corporation, is 1/3 of the dedicated SRED cost for a contractor, okay? So it's half of an employee. In the case of manufacturers or technology companies that are also involved in hardware, 42% of your wasted or transformed materials can be claimed, prototypes, stuff like that, okay? If you're a machine shop and you're just like trimming material, and you're not using that cutoff or whatever, that's not what we're talking about, wasted material. It's material that is, wasted through experimentation or prototyping, okay? Now, for those of you who are wondering, well, what about administrative costs, and what about, our rent or this or that or whatever? Yes, there are two ways of claiming those overhead costs. One of them is the traditional way. It is a very exhaustive process. There are circumstances where a company would elect to do it, but almost never. Okay. The better method is the proxy, which gives you 55% of your dedicated payroll. Okay. Now, so as to not be confused, I want to make it very clear that the 65% number I gave you factors the proxy in. So don't think about adding it on top of that. The main takeaway here is that yes, you can claim overhead, and it's already built into the 65% number. Okay. And if you're wondering how long do you have to make an SR&ED submission before you can't, if you can't, when you can't, it's 18 months after the last day of the fiscal year end. That's the SR&ED statute of limitations. Okay. So let's use an easy one, because it took me about 8 years to figure this out. I mean, it always eluded me when I was trying to, but anyways, for a December 31st year-end company, okay, so that's a company who has elected to use the calendar year as their fiscal year. We know that your taxes have to be paid by March 31st, 3 months after. We know that your tax return has to be filed 6 months after that. And again, being that the T2, the corporate tax return, is the mechanism by which you make the SR&ED submission, it's always, always, always best, without exception, to file the SRED claim, the SR&ED submission, as part of the initial filing of the tax return. But if you're now just learning about that and you think, well, we did a bunch of great stuff in 2020, not just 2021. If you fast forward from December 31st, 2020, you have until June 30th of this year to make an SR&ED submission. If you're late in filing your tax return and you haven't done it for 2020, then you can include the SR&ED schedules until June 30th. If you've already filed your tax return, you can amend it and include the SR&ED submission until June 30th, 2022. Okay. Main takeaways from this page: you get more for employees than you do contractors, but both qualify. Hardware and manufacturers can claim wasted materials. And I would say file with the tax return, or at least be aware of the statutory SR&ED filing deadline, which is always 18 months after the last day of the fiscal year. Here are the 3 criteria of the SR&ED program. This is laid out in section 248-1 of the Income Tax Act. And unlike most of the tax return, which are just numbers that are put it into, line items, in the T661 and T661 Part 2 schedules, there are actually narratives. There are stories that are written and included in the tax return. And that's what is to convince CRA that you have performed eligible work. In accordance with section 248-1 of the Income Tax Act, you need to present that there was technological uncertainty, technical content, and technological advancement. Okay, what are these things and how are they related to one another? Technological uncertainty would be considered a gap in the generally available knowledge base. Okay, so a technical problem, and I'm using terms that CRA might use. A technical problem becomes technological uncertainty when commonly available techniques and methods and information fail to resolve the specific problem you're facing. You could then say, well, an expert wouldn't be expected to know how to do that because this information is not out there. We can only attempt to narrow this gap, close the gap on our own through a systematic investigation. That is the technical content. The systematic investigation aimed at reducing or eliminating the technological uncertainty. And if you do both of those things, the third always happens: technological advancement, the resultant knowledge, even through failure. Now, I'm going to summarize this, but this is so very, very important that you understand. An SR&ED project is not necessarily a commercial project. It happens amidst your commercial project. Performance, data integration, security, so on and so on and so on. We'll get into more of those things. But what happens amidst your company project is that you realize there's this real problem and we thought we could get over this, but it's really presenting an issue and we've invested way too much time in this. An SR&ED project begins when you realize you don't have absolute and conclusive advanced knowledge as to resolve that technical problem. That is the beginning of your SR&ED project, okay? When you cannot solve it through known techniques and methods, Google the answer. It's just not there. Someone else, another company could have already been successful in trying to do this, but if they're not availing that information publicly, how could you be expected to know? You're an expert. You could only attempt to generate this knowledge on your own. That's another distinction I like to make. Generating knowledge versus acquiring knowledge. Okay. Systematically try to reduce or eliminate that which you do not know. And on the other hand, conversely, as you reduce what you don't know, you increase what you do know, even if it's a bunch of methods that don't work. SR&ED recognizes the generation of knowledge when previously presented with technological uncertainty. That's what we're talking about here. Science experiments. Okay. This is how the program used to be administered. On the left side of your screen, CRA used to use the 5-question method. Okay. I'm referring to an audit right now, which is possible, not necessarily probable, but definitely possible. Like any area of tax and accounting, CRA reserves the right to audit anything you do. We live in a country where you self-assess, and then CRA kind of looks to see where they need to focus their attention on. For context, this is what CRA looks to uncover in an audit if they're talking about the work. Okay, if your claim doesn't get accepted as filed and you need to explain more, they used to look for the technological uncertainty, the hypothesis aimed at reducing or eliminating the uncertainty, the systematic investigation, and the technological advancement, right? The 5th question has to do with documentation. This is where we get into compliance. Now, CRA has recently published that they have moved away from the 5 questions and they are simply focusing on 2 things. And I actually really believe in this, okay? And I'll tell you why I believe in it. They look now at the why and the how. Why did you conduct this project, this SR&ED project? And how did you go about doing it? The reason I believe in it is because I've always thought, and I even said it on this call, if you do the first and you do the second, the third thing always happens. If you identify technological uncertainty, you systematically try to investigate how you can reduce or eliminate that uncertainty, the advancement is always present. So I really like that CRA is presenting it this way. And this is what you should internalize. Why did you approach this work? And how did you approach this work? Was it trial and error? Did you presuppose what the outcome could be or would be? And then systematically through an iterative journey, try to explore what the outcome would be. So on the right side of your screen is what the method that CRA is using now. Okay. Here's some philosophy and facts. Part of this is a little bit of, JP injecting himself into it, and other things are very factual. I will tell you the difference between the two. Again, a commercial project is not an SR&ED project. That's a fact. A commercial project can produce one or more SR&ED project. And conversely, an SR&ED project could span multiple commercial projects. So we assist some very, very large companies. As I said to you before, we're privileged to be the official partner of many hubs that are promoting innovation in Canada. And for that reason, we're very agreeable and eager to support early stage companies. But some very large companies that you might be familiar with, like State Street Financial and Capco and Auto Trader, to name a few, rely on us too. And they have very expansive software development teams. Okay, the banks, insurance companies, huge, broad software development teams. And it could be that we identify a common thread across a number of agile teams. All right. When does SR&ED happen? Anytime individuals in the company are generating new knowledge. There's that word again, generating knowledge through an iterative journey aimed at reducing or eliminating that which you previously didn't know, technological uncertainty. Okay. And this is kind of a bit of my style, I think. And I in my non-working time, I fancy myself to be a little bit of an artist. So much like in the case of creating art, the journey is what makes one piece recognizable when another piece is not. Okay. I think Aerosmith even said that in a song, but the results of an effort are not necessarily indicative of SR&ED. It's the process. It's the journey that you went through. That's what we want to talk about. The why and the how, not the end state. Okay. And lastly, supporting activities. A lot of companies fail to get every dollar they can legally and rightfully because they're unaware of supporting activities that become eligible when commensurate with an identified SR&ED project or technological uncertainty. Okay, so for example, engineering, design, research, analysis, testing, data collection, and more are all eligible when they're directly related to an SR&ED project. On their own, they're not eligible. And a visual aid I like to use that helps me in my mind, because I'm a very much a visual learner. If you imagine a bonfire, a controlled bonfire in a field burning, that represents SR&ED for the purpose of this example. That is SR&ED. That fire burning is indicative of SR&ED, okay? On the other side, you have someone pushing a wheelbarrow. Well, if this is SR&ED, then this might not be, or, is not. But what if that person is pushing a wheelbarrow from this pile of wood over to the fire and fueling the fire? Well, then all of a sudden, this activity becomes claimable. And therefore, the value of the submission is going to increase if there was a cost associated with that work, because without that individual's effort, the SR&ED ceases to exist. Okay, so it's so important that you don't only identify the eligible SR&ED work, but the eligible supporting activities that become so when commensurate with the experimental work. Now, for those technically minded people in the audience here, if you looked at these, you might not, I mean, I'm sure you can relate, definitely. And you might go, yeah, that's us, that's us, that's us, that's us. These are the types of things we talk about when we're describing SR&ED work. We don't talk about the commercial project. I always jokingly say that, I mean, I'm not joking, it's a half joke, but this could be a dating app, or it could be a betting platform, or it could be a government website, who knows? But these technological uncertainties could reveal themselves in any type of company project. So whether we're doing something for one of the big banks, or an early stage startup that's doing something to do with fashion or something like that, it could be that there's a very similar technological uncertainty, totally unique and distinct industries, but they could be facing the exact same challenge. So I'll point out that this is the think.SRED process. Okay, if you're wondering, well, that all sounds really good, but is this going to like inundate us with work, and how does this actually happen? How do we get to this point? What I'm going to describe to you now is how we work alongside Pocketed to best support to Canadian companies. Okay, so this is our process. At first, for a company like any one of you whom I might be so fortunate to speak to after this, we would have a rummage meeting. Because we weren't there as the work was progressing, we would have a rummage meeting. And much like a rummage sale or a yard sale, which is where we take the name from, you don't really know what you're going to find when you walk up the driveway, but you know what you like when you see it. With our real world software development experience, we hone in on those areas very quickly, very efficiently. Okay. And then we move to this takes an hour. Okay. The rummage meeting takes an hour. We get the lay of the land, and then we move in, and that might be with a project lead or something like that, right? A project manager. And then the abstract meeting is with a technical lead, right? And we get right into the weeds, and we start talking about those things that we shared on we start talking about these types of things, right? Very technical conversation. Once we have our strategy about the SR&ED submission and what it looks like, we then look at the costing. Okay, we do the financial request and the financial portion of it, the costing allocation. We blend the technical and the financial, and then it's filed with your corporate tax return. Whether we do that or your accountant does it, as long as it gets done properly. Okay. 98% of the time, we get a successful result based on the submission. Okay, but there are circumstances whereby CRA wants to audit the submission. It could be at random, or it could be because they see something they want to know more about. We not only attend the audit with you as your authorized representative, we prepare you in advance so that you're going to use a vernacular that CRA responds favorably to. Okay, and lastly, Alibi and Compliance. I believe Jamie touched on Alibi. This is our sister company. Alibi is the automated SR&ED project manager and compliance engine that we have built behind the scenes while we've been trying to be the best SRED consulting firm in Canada. That wasn't the whole bigger picture for us. The bigger picture was to have an interfaced human and digital approach. Compliance is everything. Remember I said compliance, compliance, compliance. Back in 2008, when I started in this industry, CRA oftentimes focused on the inadequacies or the failure to demonstrate technological uncertainty, and therefore there can be no advancement. Now, when they take issue with submissions, it's more so compliance. We find that they don't so often say, this isn't eligible work. What they say is, it's a great story. Now just prove to us that it happened that way. This is where compliance is everything. Okay. Document your work. It doesn't need to be exhaustive. CRA is very agreeable that to the idea that there is no one prescribed way to track a project. So as long as there's some form of documentation, which is talking about the work and can show that there were some hours attached to that in accordance of what's been submitted, they tend to be very reasonable. And I agree with their position, which is why, a year and a half after we gained some traction, after the inception of Think, we knew that it was time. So we started developing Alibi, and it was just launched 3 months ago, to which a third of our clients are now using it, and they really, really like it. I'm not going to sit here and say it's for everyone. I think that would be rather arrogant and naive of me. You might have a superior tracking method for your own company and your own team. But if you don't, Alibi is there for you. And it's a complementary and inclusive part. It's a complementary tool for all of our clients, an inclusive part of our service. So now not only are you going to have an amazing software development team that's talking to your software development team, you have this amazing platform that is going to assist you with compliance throughout the year. I'll add that we incorporate that with our RTEC process, which is an acronym for real-time evidence collection. So we don't just leave you to your own devices throughout the year and hope you're uploading stuff into the system. Quarterly, bi-quarterly, monthly, we meet with you and have a quick touch point just to make sure that we're offering guidance, ongoing education, and watching SR&ED projects evolve. I think we're getting close to the end here. So what I want to impress upon you, whether it's Think or your neighbor who you have this great relationship with, or your sister or brother who does this, whomever you end up using to support you. I always jokingly say, like, for those of you who aspire to drive a Ferrari, awesome. If that's what you want, go for it. Hope you achieve that. But if something breaks, you might not want to fix it yourself or try to fix it yourself. That's probably, it's the same thing with SRED. It's a very complicated area. You want to do it right, and it can be very time consuming if you don't have the expertise. Okay. So when using a company like Think, what you will find is that you end up with the most defensible position. You're going to be compliant should CRA ever come knocking, and that you're not missing out on any eligible costs, so that you're going to receive the right SR&ED benefit, not a more conservative or aggressive approach that CRA could say, lose confidence in you because they saw that you didn't approach this right. So it's not about too much or too little. It's about being compliant. We personally don't subscribe to words like aggressive or conservative. I don't believe in that. I think compliance is the focus. Okay. Most defensible position, compliance, and don't leave any money on the table. We all want that for you. Okay. And thank you very, very much. I hope that you were able to retain some of that. More than anything, I hope it made a good impression on you that the SR&ED program, regardless of what you've heard, is a really amazing, amazing tool for you that you absolutely should be aware about. You should be making submissions if you are performing eligible work. So if you would like, you can learn more about us at think.SRED.com. You can reach out to us there. But my main role within this company is to ensure that people like you have access to correct information. So you can send me a note or call me. You can all have my phone number. I'm available to you round the clock. Clients and future clients alike. Okay. Anything you need to know, do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are very, very interested in helping you along the way. So thank you, Pocketed. Thank you for making this happen. It's a real pleasure and an honor, really, to be able to present this type of information in this, this forum, knowing that you're here alongside us. For all of you who are listening, I think you're on the right path. If you happen to be listening right now, and you're in good hands, with Pocketed and certainly with think.SRED. But then again, I'm biased. So thank you all very much.
Thanks, JP. I actually think we have some questions. So I would just like to validate JP does answer his phone. They are an exceptionally committed SRED partner. So definitely hope that people can make some connects. But Emma, it looks like you had a question. Do you want to come on mic?
Sure. Thanks, JP. That was super helpful. I especially appreciate the actual list of software activities that are like examples, because I've never seen that before.
And just, I'm gonna interrupt you. That's not a conclusive or exhaustive list. I mean, that makes up a very small portion of what we've written about. So I want, Emma, you to know that and everyone else to know that. It's not like you have to meet those criteria. Okay.
For sure. Yeah. I am a very, 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 very non-technical founder, and I have a part-time developer helping me, and he's just getting started. Is there what would you suggest having him do from day one in terms of like a best practice for tracking this stuff? Like, should he literally just set up an Excel sheet, like a timesheet, or what should he actually do just to get started on the right foot?
So here's the good news. Anything you do is good. And I mean, that's not the answer you want, but the attempt is sufficient in most cases, whereby we're all relatively competent people, right? So the attempt should be sufficient. If it was 5 minutes at the end of the week, the word that CRA looks for is contemporaneous. And for those of you who don't know that word, because it took me a long time to understand what it meant, but contemporaneous meaning as the work progressed. Okay. I mean, twice a year, not so contemporaneous, right? Does it have to be minute by minute? No, right? Whatever would enable you to thrive, okay? This shouldn't be, CRA doesn't want to impose a burden on the taxpayer beyond what the legislation requires, right? So I would say to you, if you had an Excel spreadsheet and you started out with this, Monday, total time, and what the main nature of the work was. Those three things, awesome. What's your company called, Emma? Tender?
Yeah.
Cool. So it's like you might want a SRN at tender.com or whatever it is, email address, and then they can upload documents to it, architectural diagrams. If you have the capacity and you can get an email address going, there you go. I mean, do you know what's beautiful about that? All you need to do is open up your folder and CRA can see these things are time stamped. So it could be that once a day, your developer goes, SRN at tender.com. Here's what I did today. This many hours. This was my challenge. This was my idea. Literally, I mean, 60 seconds, right?
Okay, cool.
That's it. It shouldn't be more than a few minutes a week. And that, I mean, listen, let's just be honest. If we're not willing to put any effort into documentation, then you're really just it's luck of the draw at the end of the year, right?
Okay.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah.
sufficient.
And best of luck to you, Emma. I'm putting it in the chat. I just checked out Tender, connecting people with physical disabilities with on-demand attendance services. So cool. We would love to keep in touch and hear how it's coming. What a beautiful idea.
You can tell from the quality of my website that I was not exaggerating the number of varies in front of non-technical.
Yeah, but not at all. But look at you growing your list and also growing, people's ability to live like full, rich lives. So that's really beautiful. And SR&ED is not the only money that's out there for you, Emma. There is a sign-up code there in the chat for Pocketed, where you can find tons of grants and tax credits. And that will also give some credit to JP with his referral code there. It'll give you some perks as well in the platform. Are there other questions from the audience before we want to show you Pocketed in the last couple of minutes? But we've got time for more cues.
Yeah, be brave, everyone. You're all thinking the same thing, so throw them out there. There's no bad question, and sometimes whatever it is, just throw it out there.
I have one question for those looking to engage with you, JP, for SR&ED support services. What type of, with that rummage meeting and subsequent meetings, what type of time investment are we talking about?
Yeah, so rummage meeting, oftentimes it rarely goes more than 60 minutes. Okay, because of our comprehension of software, modern software development techniques, we're still software developers. That's how Alibi came to exist, right? So we understand what you're doing. It's very quick. Truthfully, I wanted to present this in the most practical way I could, in pragmatic way. That rummage meeting, 60 minutes, abstract meeting, 30 to 45 minutes with each key technical person. Oftentimes we slip more easily into the abstract than you'd think, because we understand the commercial project and we get right into the weeds if there is a developer there. So that's a really good question though. So for those of you who are wondering, what's the total time commitment? 60 minutes or less for the rummage, 60 minutes or less for the abstract. It might take you a couple hours. I'm just going to be reasonable to send us whatever documentation you have and your T4s or your payroll journals, so we can do all that type of stuff. Everything on the back end, it's typically about 14 hours per one. On our side, 14 hours per every one required from you. And then at the end, what we give back to you is the costing schedules, the technical reports for you to sign off on. You read, review, make any comments. That might be another half an hour. And then we just work cooperatively with your accountant. So this exercise on your part would for sure be capped at 5 hours. If you're a startup.
Right. Thank
at
you.
The most.
Yeah. Yeah. And lots of money there on the table, depending on your level of activity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to jump in before I turn it over to Ben?
Well, thank you again, everyone. Whether you, if you've got everything you need today, fantastic, then I did my job. If you find that there's still questions or that you're intrigued enough to start looking into this and you want to follow up, please do. Happy to help, happy to answer questions. Thanks, Ben.
JP, yeah, what a fantastic session. Thank you for coming and delivering today. I know everybody who attended, got a lot of value out of that. I mean, I sure did as well. And so for anybody looking to access, SR&ED funding, connect with the think.SRED team, get that support that you need, you can reach out to JP directly. You can also reach out to us, and we can make that introduction at any point in time. So if you miss that contact there, then please reach out to Pocketed, myself, Jamie, and we're happy to make the introduction as well. So we're not done yet. We're going to share a little bit about Pocketed because I know some of you may be brand new to our platform as well. So if you're looking for SR&ED funding, if you're looking to connect with service providers like think.SRED and any other non-dilutive funding, which includes grant funding as well as business competitions, Pocketed is the place to be. So I'm going to throw our platform up on the screen here, and I'm already logged in. So when you come to Pocketed, Pocketed is completely free to sign up and connect with eligible funding opportunities. So I have a business profile set up already. When you create your initial account, and you can do so at that link that Jamie shared in the chat, and that's actually going to automatically apply that referral code, the think.SRED referral code, to your account, you're going to build a business profile. So you're going to fill in this form here with a ton of details on your business that will help our backend platform connect you to eligible funds, right? So you're going to get a list that's unique to you, curated to your business, for funding opportunities that you can take advantage of. So you're not looking at everything that's out there, you're just looking at everything that's out there for you. And that may include SR&ED funding. So if I go back to our grants dashboard, this is where I can actually see all those programs I've matched with. I'm able to navigate through this and click into any single program to find out more details on that, right? So I can see how much funding is available to me. What does the program entail? What are the eligibility requirements? All of those things that I need to feel really comfortable and confident to move forward and actually apply on my own. Now you can also search and filter. So if I was to search right here for SR&ED, I can actually figure out right away if I'm eligible, right? I have 143 matches. That's a ton of funding, but we want to narrow that down. So if I search for SR&ED, I should be able to see here, and it looks like maybe with the screen share and everything that's going on here, oh, you know what it is? It's because I have this loaded up here. So 1 second, I'm gonna have to relog in here. Sorry about that, folks. I thought I was being sneaky by logging into 2 different accounts on 2 different tabs, but it ended up not working in my favor. So if I come back into my grants dashboard here, and I actually search for a specific program like SR&ED, I'm gonna be able to see right away if I did match to that. So I don't have to look through all 144. I can see if I've matched to it. So great, my profile is actually matched with this funding opportunity. And again, I can see some details on that program. I can go and apply, or I can click on the support button, and then you can connect with service providers like JP and think.SRED to get that support today. Now, the other piece that we offer, of course, you can apply on your own, and that's the great thing about Pocket. It's potentially a free tool that you can leverage. But we understand that non-dilutive funding, grant funding, tax credits, it's hard to navigate, right? Especially if you're brand new to this, this funding source. There's a ton out there, a ton of different programs for different project types, and you may just, frankly, not have the time as a founder to approach this new funding source and learn and apply for your own team. And so what you can do, you can connect with our team directly, and we can connect you with the supportive resources. So we offer grant writing help internally and through our vendor network. We obviously offer help with SR&ED tax credits through JP and think.SRED, and we also offer connections to additional service providers like legal assistants, for example, or accountants. So if you wanted to connect with somebody to help with maybe your incorporation, if you're in your early days of your business, you can actually reach out to our team and we can support with that. So there's a ton you can do within Pocketed. I mean, the number one thing that's really important here is that you're accessing all of the funding that's available and eligible to you for free, easily searchable, and then you're able to connect with those service providers to get you that funding in your pockets. So I'm just going to switch back over to my slide deck really quickly here. I want to talk about what you can actually do with non-dilutive funding, right? And so we have some great success stories from our network. And I mean, Pocketed is a success story in ourselves. Our team has actually secured over $500,000 in non-dilutive funding to scale our team and build our product, which is pretty impressive. We've been, around for just about 1.5 years, and we've obviously secured quite a bit of funding. So at one of our users from Nalacare is a kind of a naturalistic product company, consumer packaged goods out of the West Coast, Vancouver here. She was actually able to secure $112,000 in 120 days using Pocketed. So she came, she signed up, she attended a webinar just like this, where we were talking about grant funding, what was available, what's out there. And then she was able to secure multiple hiring grants for her company to bring on student interns and recent grads to obviously scale her team and grow and market her business. So there's really a ton that you can do in these different categories, right? Whether you're using hiring funding to bring on new employees, whether you're using market expansion funding to expand to a new market, it's tangible funds. It makes a real impact, right? $112,000 in 120 days. You can do a lot in your business, especially in those early days or in those scaling days. So we encourage you to explore the funding that you're eligible for. And again, I'll just throw this on the slide there. The code think.SRED is going to get you special access to the platform. So what that allows you to do is, 1, take advantage of a free consultation. So this is a grant consultation. So once you log in and you want to learn a little bit more about those programs, you can chat directly with our team. It's also going to give you a 25% discount on upgrades to our Pocketed Plus version of the platform. So we have an upgraded version. The basic version, which we took a look at today, where you can search funding opportunities and filter and find what's right for you, that's free to use as a founder. If you'd like to upgrade and take advantage of some additional features within the platform, like advanced filtering, real-time alerts, as well as some incentives from our partner networks, you can actually take advantage of that and get a discount with that think.SRED code. We also have an exciting product update coming very soon, which if you follow us on social or if you're already a user of the platform, you're going to hear about it in the coming weeks. And so this code is going to become even more valuable because we're going to be adding another special perk to our partner codes. So I know it's got Jamie's name on the slide here, but I'm already talking, so I may as well just wrap things up here today. I want to thank everybody who joined us this morning, afternoon, wherever you are located in Canada. I want to thank John Paul, JP, again, thank you for coming and delivering such a fantastic presentation today. We really look forward to connecting, a lot of our users and a lot of you folks who are on the call today with the think.SRED team if you're ready to take that next step. So please do reach out to either Jamie, myself, John Paul directly, and we will facilitate that introduction.
Thank you again, everyone. Ben, Jamie, thank you so much.
Amazing.
Pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure. I just want to let everybody know who's still the last few stragglers. I know we're seeing some folks leaving now. The session was recorded today. So we will be sharing that out. We'll also likely be posting that to our YouTube channel. So if you want to watch anything back, for those of you who are watching the recording and you missed this, we hope that it was of value and you will be able to watch that again and again once we have it uploaded. So thank you, and we'll chat soon.
Good luck, everyone.
Take care, guys.